Good morning, this is the class for April the 28th, 2020 for Asia e Africa 1. Okay, thank you for your comments and I will answer them as soon as possible if I haven't already. So let's go back to what we were doing, what we did yesterday. Okay, this one was a little more practical, something that you had to do more on your own. I gave you 9 extracts from different times and places, and I asked you to tell me whether you would consider these legitimate or illegitimate varieties of English, as coming from legitimate or illegitimate varieties of English, and on the basis of what characteristics. Then we got into this other section, B5, about the characteristics of Pidgin and Creole languages. We've already talked about it, but this section goes a little more deeper into the concept. And so we watched this brief introduction to Creole and Pidgins. And we looked at lexis, pronunciation, and grammar. We said that generally speaking, these languages tend to simplification for pronunciation, and that the opposite sometimes happens for their lexis. For instance, concepts that would take one word in English are said through 3 or 4 words in Pidgins, like Papa belong me, that is my father. Or cases of reduplication where that are used to either intensify or avoid confusion. So talk, that means talk. That means talk, and talk, that means to chat, to talk a lot. We looked at how pronunciations goes through a process of simplification. So there are less consonants pronounced, less vowels that are pronounced. Like talk cuisine that only has 5 vowel sounds versus British English that has 20 sounds. And how this leads to lots of homophones, so words that are written differently but that are pronounced the same. And then I gave you this video about the spread of English for those of you who wanted to review the first part of the course, the very first classes, let's say. Now, for today, we're going to continue with the explanation of the main characteristics of Pidgins and Creoles and the differences. So for grammar, one of the characteristics is that they don't really use inflection a lot. Remember that with inflection, a word stays within the same class, but it has a different form. So boy, boys, for instance, in English. This is a process of inflection. Boy, that becomes plural, boys. You add an S, but the word belongs to the same class. It's still a noun. Maybe I explained it, I reviewed it somewhere else, but I want to give you the difference between inflection and derivation. With inflection, the word changes its form, but it does not change its class. Boy, boys. With derivation, the word changes its class. So, for instance, color is a noun, and with the process of derivation, I can create the word colorful, and that's an adjective. So I change the class of the word. With that said, let's go back to the grammar of Pidgin and Creoles. So these Pidgin and Creole have very few inflections. This means that, for instance, they don't mark nouns for number and gender. Singular, plural, masculine, feminine, neutral. And that verbs don't have tenses. So, for instance, the word me would indicate both I and me. There's no concept of present, past, future, just like the way that you would find in English. Maybe it's explained differently, but there's no form of inflection. Or also to indicate if a word is masculine or feminine. What happens with negation? Well, there's no such a thing as the do form, the not form, contractions, and all that. In Pidgins and Creoles, in some Creoles, the word no indicates negation for all those Pidgins that derive from English. Whereas, guess what? They use pas for the French-based Pidgins. Okay, so for instance, in Pidgins like Creole coming from Sierra Leone, you will hear something like, I know to had. And I forgot to write down the translation, but it could be, I guess it's something like, I don't have or I didn't have. Whereas Seychelles Creoles, you'll find something like, I patro difficile. It's not difficult or something like that. Where the word no indicates negation for English-based Pidgins and pas for French-based Pidgins. And for syntax, let's say that in the Pidgin face, there's no such a thing as a complicated clause structure. So there are no relative clauses, and everything is quite linear. Okay, you follow the pattern of how you say words. The sentence is structured exactly the way you would say it. You would say something without being too complicated. Okay, remember, it's a language that is used for communication, exchange, quick exchange, so it has to be easy, it has to be simple. What happens in the passage from a Pidgin to a Creole? And by the way, if I'm going too fast, too slow, just send me a comment and I'll fix that. But anyway, going from Pidgins to Creoles. There are four phenomena that take place when you go from a contact language like Pidgin to a language that has native speakers, like Creoles. First thing, these people are familiar. Sorry, let me interrupt that for a second. Okay, so I was saying, native speakers, so Creoles, speak faster than Pidgins. Okay, Pidgin was a language of contact. They tried to understand each other. There was an actual problem there of communication. Whereas with Creole, it's a native language, so people feel comfortable and cozy in their own skin, and they speak much faster. From a linguistic point of view, this leads to two processes. One is a process called assimilation. Okay, you'll learn lots about this with your general linguistics exam, but just for now, you need to know this. And I hope you've already taken your exam, your general linguistics exam, by the way. You either hate it or you love it. Assimilation. This means that one or two sounds change and they become more similar to the sound that comes after it, that follows it. I hope I put in, wait a second, let me see if I hope I I put an example. Yes, okay, this one concentrates both phenomena. So assimilation, you change a sound and it becomes more similar to the one that follows it. Reduction is basically removing sounds. So the original talk Pisin, so the first people who spoke talk Pisin the very first time, said something like, "Man belong me." So we said that, based on the rules that we studied yesterday, this means my husband. Man belong me. But as new generations came in and it became a Creole, a process of assimilation and reduction occurred. What is assimilation? Look here. Man belong me. Okay. N is called a nasal sound. Okay. And this one is bilabial. By pronouncing, I'll make it easier for you, okay? You'll study this in general linguistics. It's not a problem if you don't know how to technically define all the sounds. The way you pronounce the M is definitely different from how you pronounce N, right? Look at it, even if you don't know how to describe them technically, but feel what are the parts that are involved in your mouth with saying an N and with saying an M. Once you've done that, try to say the letter B. Now say N and B, and then say M and B. Even without knowing how to technically describe these two letters, with IPE and all the technical descriptions, you definitely notice that that M and B have something in common. You're using both your lips when you're pronouncing them. Now try to say N and B. You see that in the case of N, like Naples, you are not using your lips, both your lips. Whereas that's what happens when you do M and B. This is defined as a process of assimilation because the sound mambilomi, the M that is replacing the N, is more similar to the following sound. In this case, it's a B. So the N gets a characteristic of the B that follows it, and so people of a second generation of talk Pisin would say mambilomi. I'm going to show you, at the end of this class, we're going to watch a video. It's quite a long video, so that's why I want to keep it for the end of the class. And at a certain point, this person says that talk Pisin is actually now a Creole because they are native speakers of it, okay? But for whatever reason, for an unknown reason, people still refer to talk Pisin as a pidgin. Okay, but talk Pisin is not a pidgin nowadays. It was before it became a Creole. So that's what assimilation means, changing a sound to become more like the following sound. Bilabial and nasal. Okay, if you're interested, I want to show you a chart. But you'll do it in general linguistics anyway. Just to show you what I'm talking about. Not that I'm going to ask you. No, absolutely not. This one should be about the matter of articulation. Yes. Okay. Can I make it any bigger? Let's see. Okay, but anyway, you'll study it later on. Okay, so this chart shows you the manner of articulation and what parts of your body are involved in pronouncing different sounds and how you classify them. Again, so what happens in the passage from a pidgin to a creole? Well, they become not only faster, and so this influences the way in which people speak, but also their vocabulary expands. This means that there are shorter words that are used alongside longer phrases. So this means that what a pidgin would describe as a man belong fight. Okay, so and Tokpizin changes the P to F, so that's fight actually, and we'll see that in the video. Man belong fight is a fighter. In the passage from a pidgin to a creole, the word becomes shorter. So there's pightman, that is a fighter. So the first generation would say man belong pight, newer generations pightman. And then there's a wider use of suffixes and prefixes. For instance, there's a suffix im that can be added to adjectives to form verbs. So for instance, the adjective big, that stands for big or large, can become a verb with the addition of the suffix im. So big, bigim, means to enlarge, to make something bigger. So it's a more creative language, basically. And it also evolves to add a tense system. We said that pidgins don't have any form of tense, okay? It's all the same way. But there is some sort of development of this. So bin, for instance, is used to indicate a past tense, or be to indicate future tense. So it's not all the same. And then, of course, the further we go, the more complex it becomes. An indicator that a language has gone from a pidgin to a creole is greater sentence complexity. For this reason, some creoles have relative clauses. Okay, so the passage from pidgin to creole, people speak faster. Vocabulary is expanded. There are tenses and more complexity from a general sentence point of view. And then remember what we said about pigeons. They are just used in restricted social situations. People had to communicate, people had to work together, they had to talk with people who used the dominant language. What happens with the social forms? With Creoles, with the passage from pigeons to Creoles, language starts to be used in, is used in more social functions, is used to perform more social functions than a regular pigeon. For instance, it's used in literature, both for oral forms or written forms. Or it's used in education, or for mass media, in advertisements, and hello, hello, in the Bible. Let me move this around a second. Okay, this is the video that I wanted you to watch, but we'll do that later. I'll put this here. Wait, where did it go? Okay. So we're going to read I want to give you 3 examples, 3 excerpts. Use of Creole in different contexts. And we're going to compare them for as much as possible, for what is possible. The first excerpt, the Talk Bezine version that we're going to look at, is the Lord's Prayer. So while I'm reading it in English, let's see if we can more or less follow along. And see if you can notice the differences or the main characteristics that we've talked about in these texts. Okay, so the first chunk over here, let's see if I can do it correctly. Can't guarantee, but let's see. Our Father in heaven. Okay, and that makes sense with what we've said so far with belong and the simplification of sounds, right? May your name be held holy. You stop long heaven. Makes sense. Your kingdom come. Again, that belong, we can see that, or the you. No, actually, sorry. There's something that is not, I might have skipped a line. This is the part about the kingdom, sorry. Kingdom belong you, ikam. And that sure makes sense. Your will be done on earth as in heaven. Okay, sorry for the interruption. I wanted to look at it for a second. So, our Father in heaven. Okay, and that's Father, this first part over here. Okay, without reading it. May your name be held holy. And this is this other part over here. Okay, you can recognize the word nem. Your kingdom come, and it's this part we said. Your will be done on earth as in heaven. And this is this part, okay? Ground for earth and heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Okay, we can recognize the verb given here. And forgive us our debts. Forgive, you can recognize the form here. As we have forgotten those who are in debt to us. And it's this part over here. And do not put us to the test. This. But save us from the evil one. It's this last part over here. Amen. So this is taken from the Jerusalem Bible, and it's Matthew 6, 9 through 13. Second part, let's look at an excerpt from Julius Caesar. Give me a second to pull up the translation. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Okay. You can recognize the form of Romans. Men belong Rome. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. To bury Caesar, not to praise him. Okay, and it's this part over here. Probably this form is this form here. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. I lost track. So let it be with Caesar. And it's this part over here. And last one. Colgate advertisement. Okay. Colgate strengthens your teeth. And it's this part over here. Take care. Look out. Okay, we can recognize this form here. Lots of sugary foods and sweets rot your teeth fast. Okay? Teeth. Look at how teeth was simplified. So the book says to notice the verbs bagaripim, okay, that is the verb to destroy, or hurry up, okay, we can recognize that one as hurry up, so it means fast in top cuisine. Before we move on to another topic, I want you to pause the video here and watch this, or if you prefer, you can watch it at the end. That's up to you. But this is to complete the topic on talk cuisine, because it's a general video. It's about 15 minutes. That's why I suggested to watch it at the end of the class. And it gives you some further information about this pigeon. Well, technically no longer a pigeon. Now we'll get into this other section B6, that is about ELF, English as a lingua franca. And we're going to look at some general features of English as a lingua franca and what happens when it is used in such contexts. So just like with any other simplification process, we can imagine that also for English as a lingua franca, this is going to happen. There are going to be lots of simplifications. One is the dropping of the third person present tense S. Okay, so he watches, watch. Something else that can happen is an incorrect use from an inner circle English point of view of the difference between who and which. And also between what and which. Something else that can happen is the omission of definite and indefinite articles, where you're supposed to put them in English as a native language. Or the opposite, adding them in when they're not, when they do not occur in English. Okay. Just to give you an example, but it's not the case because this is an expanding world. It will be considered part of the expanding circle anyway, if not. Imagine all the situations in which Italians put definite articles in English where they're not supposed to. Okay, I like the pizza. That's something that could happen in English when it's used as a lingua franca. Or sometimes it can happen that question tags or tag questions are used in an incorrect form. Okay. Sometimes tag questions are replaced with no when English is used as a lingua franca. Okay. This is blue. No. Instead of saying this is blue, isn't it? Then, with prepositions, prepositions are one of the most difficult things to deal with in any language, probably. And so it can happen that in English, when it's used as a lingua franca, they're used way too much. You can hear something like, we have to study, what we have to study about. Change that. what we have to study about. Okay, so there's no do, there's use of extra prepositions where they're not supposed to be. Because probably they're not known. People who are using English as a lingua franca do not know how exactly to use the prepositions. And the same thing happens with some verbs that are used a lot, like do, have, make, put, and take. Okay. There are collocations that people who do not speak English as a native language, people who do not speak English as a native language might not know, and so they tend to use them incorrectly from an inner circle English point of view. I can't remember what I wanted to say with this point, so I'll just skip it. In some cases, more words than expected are used. So maybe they can be, instead of saying just black color, well, instead of saying black, they would say black color. So you're being way more explicit than what you're supposed to do. Okay. For today, I want to stop here, but there's this second video that I want you to watch that is about the author of the book that you're studying, Jenkins, and it's an interview in which Jenkins gives further information about how she started her studies on English as a lingua franca. Okay, and for today we'll stop here, and then we'll continue with the rest of the descriptions later on. So, what did we do today? Sorry about that. Not now. So today we looked at the differences in Pidgins and Creoles for grammar. We said that yes, this is where I stopped. I suppose so. Oh, wait. Okay, no. Okay. We looked at the differences between Pidgins and Creoles, and we said that Pidgins have very few inflections. Okay, and we looked at the difference between inflection and derivation. Negation is usually reduced to the form of no for English-based Pidgins and pas for French-based Pidgins. We said that Pidgins have a very simple clause structure. Okay, there's nothing complicated, and such as relative clauses. In the passage from Pidgins to Creoles, there were four main changes. Okay, so people began to speak faster, and this led to a phenomena like assimilation or reduction of sounds. And we looked at the example of man belong me, that becomes man belong me. There's also an expansion of vocabulary. Okay, so new words were created alongside the phrases that were used in Pidgin. Like man belong pite, that becomes pipe man. Or the use of suffixes, and we looked at the case of im that is added to change to go from an adjective to a verb. Plus, there's the creation of tenses, of a tense system. So, for instance, the mark bin indicates past tense, or be for future tense, which did not occur in Pidgin. And plus, there's more sentence complexity, so the creation of relative clauses. From a social point of view, we said that Creole is no longer used in a restricted context. It is used in a wide range of social functions, for instance, literature, education, mass media, advertisement, and the Bible. And we looked at several cases from Tok Pisin, and we compared them with the translation. We looked at the Lord's Prayer in Tok Pisin, and we tried to find some elements that we could recognize based on what we studied. An excerpt from Julius Caesar. And an advertisement, the Colgate advertisement, in both Tok Pisin and the British English version. This video that I asked you to watch focuses on some of the main characteristics of Tok Pisin. Okay, so it gives you further information and examples that are for this Pidgin that is no longer a Pidgin, because actually it's now a Creole, even if everybody refers to it as a Pidgin. Then we started this new section very briefly about ELF, using English as a lingua franca. And we looked at the main lexicogrammatical features. So what is considered a mistake in inner circle English are some of the characteristics of English used as a lingua franca. And I asked you to watch this second video that is in an interview with Jenkins, who is the author of the book that you are studying. I don't want to give you too many things to do today because the video that I gave you is pretty long. Okay, so let's go to the song for today. And it's Black Eyed Peas, Where's the Love? What's wrong with the world, mama? People live like they ain't got no mamas. I think the whole world got addicted to the drama. Only attracted to things that will bring the trauma. Overseas, yeah, we're trying to stop terrorism, but we still got terrorists here living. In the USA, the big CIA, the Blood and the Crips, and the KKK. But if you only have love for your own race, then you only leave space to discriminate. And to discriminate only generates hate. And when you hate, then you're bound to get irate. Yeah, madness is what you demonstrate. And that's exactly how anger works and operates. Man, you gotta have love. This'll set it straight. Take control of your mind and meditate. Let your soul gravitate to the love, y'all. People killing, people dying, children hurt, and you hear them crying. Can you practice what you preach? And would you turn the other cheek? Father, 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 help us. Send some guidance from above. 'Cause people got me questioning, where is the love? It just ain't the same. All ways have changed. New days are strange. Is the world insane? If love and peace is so strong, why are the pieces of love that don't belong? Nations dropping bombs, chemical gases filling lungs of the little ones, with ongoing suffering as the youth die young. So you ask yourself, is the loving really gone? So I could ask myself, What is really going wrong? If the world we are living in, people keep on giving in, making wrong decisions, only visions of them dividends, not respecting each other, denying thy brother. A war is going on, but the reason's undercover. The truth is kept secret, is swept under the rug. If you never know the truth, then you never know love. Where's the love, y'all? Come on. I don't know. And then it repeats. Okay. I feel the weight of the world on my shoulder. As I'm getting older, y'all people get colder. Most of us only care about money making. Selfishness got us following the wrong direction. Wrong information always shown by the media. Negative images is the main criteria, infecting the young minds faster than bacteria. Kids want to act like they see in the cinema. Whatever happened to the values of humanity? Whatever happened to the fairness and equality? Instead of spreading love, we're spreading animosity. Lack of understanding leads us away from unity. That's the reason why sometimes I'm feeling under. That's the reason why sometimes I'm feeling down. It's no wonder why sometimes I'm feeling under. Gotta keep my faith alive till love is found. People killing, people dying, children hurt and you hear them crying. Can you practice what you preach? And would you turn the other cheek? Father, 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 help us. Send some guidance from above. 'Cause people got me questioning. Where's the love? Okay, let me get the link for you a second. And as I'm running out of songs, I'd ask you to send me some of your suggestions. Give me a second, it's taking a while, but we're almost there. Okay, so this is the link, and that's okay. And I'll put it right here, link 3. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, just send me an email or put something in the comment box. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye. Take care. Stay safe and healthy.